Hello everyone, I'm back with the critical reasoning part of the Clat 2020, and this part contains, quite a few errors. So please listen carefully and let's hope that some of these errors get rectified. Now the first part over here is about analog journalism and about the role played by the digitalization of journalism. And the author starts by talking to us about various background issues like financial stress, etc. Then comes to this point on analog journalism. Again, is apologetic to a point where he says, "I'm not a Luddite, and we're not looking at it with rose-colored glasses, etc." And only after hence, as you can see here, only after the word hence does he come to the main issue about credibility. So when you read the entire thing, you realize that the main point begins right in the end only. So if you are a next year candidate for Clat, just note these points here that we are talking about, because these are learnings for you. And see how I am dealing with questions over here. What pointers am I using? How I'm using elimination method when I don't see any direct help in answers. So the main point begins actually here. So when you do the basic class on main point, and if you've seen the video on main point, you will notice that the main point can start even right at the bottom. And before it can only be a lot of background information. Right, so let's look at the questions from here. Which of the following expresses the main idea? As you can see, credibility was the main keyword, right? It was not about skeptics. Skeptics have come up, has been a point mentioned, but the author talks about credibility to begin with, right? Distortion of truth. Those who subscribe to newspapers know, in fact, this alternate form of journalism, where people have started actually believing in forwards more than actual journalism. That is the point which the author says. It's not as if they are distorting the truth. But anyway, it's about those people who accept WhatsApp forwards as news. And this is the author's main bone of contention. As I've shown you right in the end there, that will be your answer. Right. So let's look at this point. I'm talking about how there needs to be a conducive atmosphere for credible. Now, this is where the main point is, right? What is the assumption behind it? Naturally, the assumption is that it is not credible. It is an assumption question. That means this is not based on data or evidence, and definitely it distorts the truth, right? So this is the assumption behind what the author says. I'm talking about credible information. So it's a simple question. I hope you got it. Then comes the strengthen part. Author's argument is on credible news, which is not being available on social media. So what will strengthen it? Naturally, if people believe in WhatsApp forwards more than anything else, this strengthens it because there is a new version of the truth which is doing the rounds. This, look at the word only, we can eliminate. Just keep looking at the pointers, the main words that we use to eliminate, right? And this is a comment which is also quite far-fetched and will not strengthen, right? It's only a commentary on what the author has written. We have to give one more evidence to strengthen it. Again, those of you who are looking at writing the Clat next year, pay attention to what strengthen is. We have videos, we have classroom lectures on strengthen and weaken. Strengthen is done best when we put in another piece of evidence that supports what the author is saying. All right, so we have to talk about the reference of rose-colored glasses. Rose-colored glasses means biases. Rose-colored glasses means I already have a perspective. So you cannot change my way of thinking. So the word biases is what is the correct answer over here. Again, look at this. This is going against what the author is saying. Here the author is trying to say that I'm not a Luddite. Please don't think that I am looking at it with any bias. I'm doing a very, very general analysis of the situation, right? And this is, of course, a not so worthy option. So option B is our right answer here. What has the author severely targeted? The only thing that the author's main point is, again, it's a main point question. And again, look at the answer, credibility. It is a main point question. So the main point began where I showed you in the passage, and everywhere, now there are two main point questions in the same passage. So you can imagine that when you have more than one question on one passage, usually it repeats the main point question or the main idea question. So again, it's a main point question, credibility, that's our answer. All right, so now let's look at this very interesting passage. Here, right in the beginning, it appears we are talking about Gorbachev or Russia, right? And this is like anecdotal. It's an anecdote on when Gorbachev decided to do this alcohol ban in Russia, right? So, 1 minute, children. All right. Yes. So the alcohol ban in Russia, but then we come to the actual issue here, which is again the pandemic and the lockdown. And you realize that the author is just putting in this anecdote to compare and to contrast what happened in 1985 Russia when alcohol was banned versus now when after the lockdown alcohol was served. Again, now notice, till here there is nothing on main point. And main point actually starts here, where the author brings in alcohol laws or laws which should either be based on morality, right, versus laws that are based on the need. And then the author talks about personal freedom. Naturally, personal freedom should not be hazarded or jeopardized, right? So how do you tackle alcohol? So the main point actually boils down till here. So the whole passage, it's not about alcohol, it's basically laws around personal choices, what we eat, what we consume, and whether morality has a role to play there or not. And certainly moralism or puritanism on alcohol cannot be the basis of the state policy. So just imagine, it talks about alcohol as a need versus what Russia saw, that once alcohol was banned, it suffered a lot in terms of revenue. Then comes to when alcohol was opened up after the lockdown, how it was dealt with. But the main issue, it seems, is in the last two lines on morality, and we see a lot of questions on morality and alcohol. All right, actually that's an analogy, I just told you that. And what can be inferred from the passage? Now, look at this. Elimination method, inference question or must be true question. This category of question comes under inference or must be true. It's a very standardized, legitimate style of asking critical reasoning questions. And we always deal with must be true questions by concentrating on the keywords. Must not at all. Extreme keywords. Usually we try to eliminate options for must be true on the basis of the usage of these extreme keywords. Any, all, ideally should be eliminated, right? Always. Can you see it? These are ideal candidates for being eliminated. It is very difficult to discuss any. Do you notice the trend now, students? All, always, any, eliminate. And you come out with your right answer. All right, 130. Which of the following weakens the argument that moralism on alcohol cannot be the basis? We have to weaken it. So option A looks like a good candidate for a weakened question. Why cannot it be a state policy? Because of what people would like to do. B also looks all right. Right? Looks all right. Right? Now, state cannot or should not interfere, but naturally state sometimes needs to interfere. When society needs time to be hauled up, we know some bans with respect to alcohol happened because of domestic violence. B also looks quite all right. And C, of course, takes it away to another analogous scenario. So if the option had written that consider an analogous scenario, we would have been able to mark it as the correct answer. But C looks very suspect here. However, the given answer is all of the above. We would like to stick to A. That's why we have changed the color of our answer, because C does not even make mention of the fact that they are trying to explain it with an analogous example of intimacy. That's our only problem here with 113. Let's hope that students have challenged it and they get a response. What is true as per the passage? Naturally, again, another question on moralism. Why is that another question on moralism? Because we've already decided that the author is looking at laws being made around morality, which interfere into the space of a person's consumption habits and lifestyle habits, right? So again, should not be concerned, not a good option. Any, not a good option. Can you see that we have eliminated this option because of the word any? And it seems that the author is looking at a middle path. Of course, the author is pretty much against alcohol laws being made on moralism. And though he does not say nothing should be made on moralism, so B looks like a decent statement to be true under the circumstances. Okay, all right. So what can be a part of state's policy? Again, if you have seen the previous question, it continues into this question. So it should be justifiable. It should not just be based on morality or any type of preaching. So naturally, the author would not suspect ban on alcohol shops. However, education is a good policy to bring citizens up to the par of enjoying liberties that they get, so that there is no domestic violence, etc. Right? And regulation of some sort rather than a complete ban. And of course, there are lots of things we hear in community intervention policy. For example, if you hear domestic violence, ring the bell, etc. So that's what it's talking about. So C completes this answer. All right, the next passage, as you can see, is on the author talking about reduction in syllabi and relaxation in the marking scheme, as a result of which there is fine. I mean, students feel less of stress, but the author shows the bigger picture, which is the disaster that could happen because high marks in themselves do nothing. It is basically shortage of opportunity. So I've highlighted that for you, right? And this sort of reservation will, because of the license Raj, would be disastrous because of the existing reservation. And in the author says that instead of giving these injectables, what one should do really is, what one should do really is that help students get a quality education, get employability, rather than relaxation techniques and higher marks, right? So that's the central theme which could have been gathered from the areas that I have highlighted for you. So what is the cloud? Clearly given, fact-based question, answer is C. Right? What would weaken the argument that chopping? So we have to weaken the author's argument. The author says this won't help. Right? So what is going to weaken it? Now again here, 117, the best weaken that we think is the correct answer is C. Naturally, it will help in achieving good learning targets. Quality learning can be imparted through chopping down the syllabus. So whatever the author was saying, give quality learning, that can be achieved with with chopping down the syllabus, right? And A and B seem a little frivolous and out of context. Though the given answer is D, I hope this question will also be reconsidered, right? They just seem completely frivolous because they're way off the mark. All right. What is the plausible explanation? Again, in question number 118, while B and C are in sync with the central theme, A is a little not in sync with the central theme, but it is quite possible that students are not just getting high marks because of these two things. They are also probably, some of them could be studying as well. So as a result, the answer is, could be D, right? Because B and C are of course in sync, but to believe, this question I think is asking us that, do we believe that students are scoring high marks only because of relaxation? No, that's not what the author is saying. It's not absolutely that. Some could be studying, right? Therefore, the answer here is D. All right. So what should be done? Naturally, the author is saying chopping syllabus won't help. Doesn't mean that the author is saying add to the syllabus, right? What the author wants is good learning environment, which is given in option 2, right? The author again is saying that if you add on to reservation, that's a problem. Author does not mean do away with reservation. That's not what the author is saying, right? So 1 and 3 are completely not true in their opposites, but definitely creating quality education. So 2 and 4 would be the answer. So always remember, if the author is saying that we already have this little reservation policy going, that does not mean that he wants it to be removed. All he's saying is that we do need to invest into better quality education. Maybe right now we cannot eliminate reservation, but if we invest in good quality education, we might be able to do away with reservation, right? What can be inferred? It's a simple, straightforward inference, right? Which is given as the main point by the author. I think if you check all the options, you won't have any problem coming to option B. All right. Then next passage on going to work in the coronavirus, working at home. The very first line gives you the main idea of the passage, unlike the other passages that we have seen, where the main idea comes right in the end. So right in the very first line, we've got the main idea. We have to rethink our lifestyle, question our need to travel to work, and the author makes the case for working from home, says that we have to redesign cities based on working from home, right? All right, so what is the main idea? Pretty clear. From here, again, eliminate extreme options. The author is not saying shutting down of big buildings will be the final result, but definitely a new realization of the city infrastructure will be there. That does not mean big buildings will shut down. Do not answer in extremes. What can be inferred from the passage? This should have been done actually by elimination. Naturally, you could argue these options are all very bizarre, but the only option which is least debatable over here is A, right? Look at B, it's going contradictory to the passage. C is going contradictory to the passage. The only thing which is in sync with what the author is saying, that work from home is the new normal, is in option A. So that's my best case argument here. If I were attempting this question, I would eliminate B and C because they are contradictory to the passage. The passage clearly promotes work from home, right? That would have eliminated B, and A is the only option which is left. So sometimes, please remember, this is how you have to reach your answer. You have to be clever over there and not sit and whine. So what is the benefit of the new culture? Pretty simple question. If you have just read the passage, you would have been able to do it. All right. We have to weaken it. Very good, I mean, very, very simple way to weaken it. Naturally, both A and B are giving us alternative reasons to not work from home, right? Simple case for weaken the argument. All right. So again, we have to weaken it. Same thing, just like 124 gives us alternatives and says how these are going contradictory to what the author is saying. Okay, 126 is a standalone question. So if the author is saying that if we do such a thing, if we limit the tonnage per truck and remove that from the road, we will be able to reduce traffic. That means for traffic to be reduced, it is necessary that earlier there was traffic, And for traffic to be reduced by removing 8-ton trucks, that means earlier there were 8-ton trucks. That is what option C is saying. So if the author says that this will remove traffic, it is necessary that that traffic was there to begin with. If it wasn't there, how will you remove it? And why will you remove it? So answer will be option C. Then again, a standalone question. Both Harry and Potter are talking about personal slander of candidates, whether that makes a case for democracy. So Harry says that we should be able to voice it. Potter says that this sort of voicing is only personal attack, right? So they're not debating personal attack. They're debating whether this constitutes a democratic forum or not. That is what option B says. They're not saying whether it's personal attack or not. They're not fighting over it. Both of them are arguing whether it constitutes a candidate's democratic rights for that candidate to attract votes. So one says, yes, it does. The other says, no, it's only personal slander. So we have to find common ground between the two arguments and see what each is saying towards that. So they're not discussing personal slander. They're discussing a candidate's right to a democratic vote. So that is option B. All right, so 128th is a simple case. Naturally, if you are going from Delhi to Chennai quickly, it has to be that they are connected by air service, right? The distance is not reduced, but you reach there faster. All right, then online classes in the pandemic. This passage tells us that some find it good, some find it bad, right? So it does have some advantages, but it may also have disadvantages, right? So let's look at the questions. What is the central idea? Is it a better method? We can't say. Is it not good at all? That also we can't say, because A says better, B says it is not good at all, right? Is it sustainable? We can't say. All we can say is it has its benefits and it has its negative qualities as well. Okay, what cannot be inferred? It is sustainable, we can't say. It has problems, yes. It has advantages, yes. B and C can be inferred, A cannot be inferred. 133, students are not serious while studying. Okay, so 133 also we had a problem. The answer says both 1 and 2, but this is an overstatement. One teacher did say that some students are more serious, but that doesn't mean that in general students are not serious in physical classrooms. So we feel that A is not a correct option, though the given answer is this. Only 2 is the correct option. So I hope if our students have challenged it, it is accepted. All right, what can be inferred? This is the central theme. Option A, the moment you see it, you should have marked it. This is what can be inferred. Virtual education provides for various online seminars, opportunities, etc. Which of the following would weaken the statement? Naturally, inaccessible. A1 would weaken it, right? Again, do not have devices. Inaccessible again. So both 1 and 2 say inaccessible. 3 says they're not interesting. That would not weaken it. It's a matter of choice if you like it or not. 4 again says inaccessible because it is expensive. So it's a simple case for option C, 1, 2, and 4. Right? So I hope you liked our analysis, the key points which led to certain answers. Of course, there are 2 or 3 to 4 answers that we have challenged, and we have given our reasons for it. And if there is any help that you need or any clarification you need on any question, please write to us at help@clatpossible.com. We would be happy to listen to your question and clarify this further. So I hope this session was useful. And this is how you have to think if you are a CLAT 2021 candidate. And this is what you have to learn to achieve. The way that I was solving, the keywords that I was looking at, the keywords that I marked in the passage in red, this is what you have to practice. So hopefully your journey to CLAT 2020 will be successful, And those who are in 2021 or 2022 batches, hopefully you will have learned how to tackle these questions well. All the best.